بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us all the sincere intentions. So far, when speaking about the prophets, we've mentioned Prophet Aadam alayhi salam. And we've mentioned Prophet Sheeth alayhi salam, but we've not gone into details about his life. The fact of the matter is that not much is known about his life. But we'll mention what the history books say about him alayhi salam. A forward, if you will, the stories of the prophets are taught because there are many lessons in them about the nations of the past, about hardships of the nations of the past. When you hear about someone else's hardship, it, in a sense, lessens your own. And through hearing true stories of the people of the past, one becomes cultured, one becomes more educated. If one knows history, then there are even certain refutations that a person can produce against the people of misguidance. Sometimes people may play on the fact that one is ignorant about history. So one of the objectives, among the many objectives, of hearing the stories of the prophets is for us to be, as they say, on the right side of history, so that we know how things happened. And it's fascinating that we got to be the last nation of the last and the best Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whom all of these prophets that we're going to mentioned. They told their nations that a final prophet would come. They all also told their nations about the day of judgment, that it would come. So all of these people, all these nations expected death. They expected to be held to account for their deeds, just as their prophets had informed them. And even the prophets, they spoke different languages. They had different experiences, and so on. Different matters were revealed to the messengers among them. But of course, we know that they shared certain attributes, as we've mentioned before. And we'll, as we go on to mention some fabricated stories that are mentioned by some people, you'll see those very attributes repeated again and again and again. Attributes of honor and nobility. The prophets didn't lie, for example. They didn't commit kufr or major sins and so on. You'll see that it's a recurring theme again and again and again, proving their impeccability. In that is a protection for them. And listening to these stories is an honor for us. And so we ask Allah to make these gatherings blessed. Insha'Allah, as you've seen, as I've been trying to do, in mentioning the stories of the prophets, wherever there's a religious judgment that can be expanded upon, that can be explained, that relates to us in this nation, to clarify confusion perhaps, then I'll mention it, inshaAllah. Whether it relates to something in belief, or something to do with purification even. Okay, we'll mention it. We'll compare also some rules that were revealed to some prophets that was specific for their nation but is different for us. So that we can compare, so we can say, subhanAllah, look what they had to do. And look how easy it's made for us. And I say it like that because Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ بِالشَّرِيعَةِ السَّمْحَاءِ. I was sent with the easy rules compared to the rules given to the other prophets, to the other nations. Just one example of that is that if somebody in one of the nations in the past, if a drop of urine got onto their clothing, they couldn't just wash the piece of clothing and wear it again. No, they had to cut that piece that the urine fell on out. And then they could patch it up with something else. But for us, it's easier in this nation. It was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ that if you wash the area and there is no smell, taste or color, then this is considered to be pure. Okay. So we'll continue now, inshaAllah. So, after Qabil, and Qabil was the murderer, if you remember. Qabil, he was al-Qatil. After Qabil murdered his brother Habil, Sheeth alayhi salam was born. He was born 5 years after that horrible event of the murder of Habil occurred. And so, and he was born without a twin. All his other siblings, they were born as twins, a boy and a girl, a boy and a girl, a boy and a girl. And he was named Sheeth. Sheeth, it means a gift from Allah. And Adam alayhi salam and Lady Hawa, they were told that Sheeth alayhi salam is a gift from Allah in place of the son that they lost, Habil, in place of the pious son that they lost. As for what is mentioned about the passing of Adam alayhi salam, then it said that he fell ill for 11 days. And he passed on his will to his son Sheeth. The prophets also, they do not leave behind an inheritance. They do not leave behind assets that are then inherited. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, our Prophet, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that the prophets, they do not leave behind things that are to be inherited. He said, إِنَّ الْأَنْبِيَاءَ لَمْ يُوَرِّثُوا دِرْهَمًا وَلَا دِينَارًا. The prophets, they did not inherit, or rather leave behind in inheritance, golden coins or silver coins. إِنَّمَا وَرَّثُوا الْعِلْمِ. But what they left behind for people to inherit was knowledge. And the prophets, they were the sources of knowledge. If you recall in the previous session, we had reviewed that Adam alayhi salam was given the foundations to all the different knowledges. So that which is 100% true, that which is called knowledge, is what comes by revelation from Allah. Even if today scientists, they do things, they perform trial and error and they theorize and so on. If it's not mentioned in the Quran, or if it's contradictory to the Quran or what our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, then, as the Arabs say, يُضْرَبُ بِهِ عُرْضَ الْحَائِطِ, we slap it against the wall. It doesn't mean anything. because we go by what Allah revealed, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, which is revelation. So Adam alayhi salam, it said that he ordered Sheeth alayhi salam to withhold some of the extra knowledge that Adam alayhi salam had passed down to Sheeth from Qabil, to withhold it from Qabil and his children, because it was because of jealousy that he killed his brother Habil. So he was told, Sheeth was told, that do not give him any extra. So Sheeth alayhi salam, he followed, and so he did not pass that on to Qabil, nor did the sons of Sheeth pass that on to Qabil. When death came to Prophet Aadam alayhi salam, it's mentioned that he taught Sheeth alayhi salam about the special times in the night and the special times in the day, and which parts of the time and the day are considered the most blessed for a person to worship Allah. Yeah. Adam alayhi salam had many secrets that he possessed. He saw paradise. He lived in paradise. He was the first man on earth. He had valuable experience on top of being a prophet and a messenger. He also taught, and we're going to elaborate upon this, he taught, or he informed Sheeth alayhi salam, as Allah revealed to him, that there would be a great flood, that it would come. This was looming. So Sheeth alayhi salam knew this, and the children of Adam, therefore, they knew about this great flood that's going to come. A flood, a deluge that's going to encompass the whole world, not just the area where they were living, but it's going to come over the whole world. The whole world will be submerged. And this, I mean, even hearing about it now, this is a huge event, right? So can you imagine them being told about this, that it's going to happen? And of course it was 100% going to happen, because Adam alayhi salam informed them about it. When death was close, Adam alayhi salam, he said to his children, Ya baniya, O my children, O my sons, Inna Allah sayunzilu ala ahli al-ardi adhaban. O my children, Allah will send upon the people of the earth a grave torture. And so he advised that when I die, that you are to carry my body in the ark, in the ship. So already he's told them there's going to be a tufan, a great deluge, and there is going to be a ship. So if you live to see that day, and they did not live to see that day, if you live to see that day, because it comes, doesn't it, in the time of Nuh alayhi salam, much later. If you live to see that day, then take my body. We're going to talk about the burial in a short while, but after that, take my body and bury it in a cave in the lands of Asham. Asham, it is what they call today the Levant, but it's an area wider than that. Calling it the Levant doesn't do it justice. Islamically, it's an area that's wider than that. It includes all of Syria, all of Palestine, all of Jordan, all of Lebanon. It includes a part of Egypt, northern Egypt. It doesn't include Cairo. It's up to an area known as Al-Arish, and also a part of Iraq, up to an area that was known until recently, I believe, as Balis. So this part towards the northeast, this part of Iraq, which is southeast Iraq, I believe, and a part of Turkey also, a part of Turkey. All of this is considered to be a Sham. And also the scholars sometimes refer to it as a Sham in the past. A Sham and a Sham. So he specified for them, Adam alayhi salam, a cave in which he wanted them to bury him in the lands of a Sham. And it was a specific place. So after Adam alayhi salam passed away, and this part we're going to pause here, okay? We're going to pause here, and we'll come back to it soon because we haven't mentioned his burial yet, okay? So, what do we have next? He instructed, okay. So, Prophet Adam alayhi salam, it's mentioned that when he died, when he passed away, and by the way, you can say about a prophet that he died. There is no problem in that. Linguistically, there is no problem in that, in saying that a prophet died. And religiously, there is no problem in that. It's not disrespectful to say that a prophet died. Because death is not evil. Death is not something evil. So, some people nowadays, they have a problem with that. They have a problem with saying that a prophet died. No, this is true. Allah revealed in the Quran, إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ, meaning, Ya Muhammad, alayhi salatu wassalam, you are mayyit, meaning satamut, and you will die. وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ, يعني, and they will die. And Sayyiduna Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, on the day of the death of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, didn't he come out and clarify for the people when some of the companions were saying, whoever says the Prophet has died, I will chop off his head? And didn't Sayyiduna Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu come out and say, Man kana ya'budu Muhammadan fa Muhammadun qad mat? Whoever used to worship Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, then know that he has died. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وَمَنْ كَانَ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ حَيٌّ لَا يَمُوتُ. As for those that were worshipping Allah, then know that Allah is hayy. It's attributed with life. لَا يَمُوت. Allah does not die. So you can say about, and Sayyidina Abu Bakr said it, radiyallahu anhu, that he said, إِنَّ مُحَمَّدًا قَدْ مَاتٍ. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So you can say that about the prophets of Allah. But remember, the prophets of Allah, they left this world. They passed away. They died. Yes. But our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also mentioned that al-anbiya ahya fi quburihim yusallun. The prophets are now alive in their graves, and they perform prayer. Okay? So yes, although they did pass away, they did die, they are now alive in their graves. When Adam alayhi salam died, and imagine this, Adam alayhi salam passed away. This is the first prophet and the messenger among the humans. So this is something that's never happened before. Today, we can say, yes, do you know, there are about 124,000 prophets that died. There are 312 messengers, there are 313 altogether. 312 died. Which one hasn't died yet? Prophet Isa alayhi salam. So many of the prophets have passed away. We can say that now, but then this was the first prophet and the first messenger that died. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, the order of Allah came that the angels, they would take from paradise a shroud, shrouds, and they would take al-hanut, which is fragrances or perfumes from paradise. The angels, they were the ones that dug his grave, and they were the ones that buried him. They, after washing him with sidr and water, the number of times is not mentioned, either 1 or 3 or 5, al-witr. Then they shrouded him, then they dug his grave and they buried him. And then the angels said, now this is a type of teaching, a type of demonstrating, modeling, if you will. They said, هذه سنة ولد آدم من بعده. This is the way. هذه سنة ولد آدم من بعده. This is the way of the children of Adam after Adam. This is what they will do. So the angels, they taught the humans by the order of Allah, of course. Sheeth alayhi salam, who had already become a prophet, he said to Jibreel alayhi salam, pray upon him, pray upon Adam. And so Jibreel alayhi salam said, تقدم أنت فصل على أبيك. He said to him, rather you step forward and pray upon your father. Where was Adam alayhi salam buried? There are different sayings. There are different sayings of the scholars, different opinions of the scholars. Some said that he was originally buried in a cave in Abi Qubais. What's Abu Qubais? Anybody ever heard that before? Abu Qubais. It's one of the mountains, you know, where As-Safa is part of a greater mountain. As-Safa, where we perform a sa'i, As-Safa, from As-Safa to Al-Marwa. As-Safa is a part of a greater mountain, and Al-Marwa is part of a greater mountain. And it's only valid to perform a sa'i between As-Safa and Al-Marwa. They call this part of that greater mountain Anfu Safa, literally the nose of Safa, this part. So it's not all of the mountain that you can, however you want, perform sa'i between the two. No, it's a part of the mountain. Anyway, one of these greater mountains is called Abu Qubais in Mecca. So that is where it said that Adam alayhi salam was buried. In a cave there known as Ghar al-Kanz. Ghar al-Kanz. But now you'll hear more about, when we get closer to the time of Nuh alayhi salam and the flood is coming, what happens, what Nuh alayhi salam did, taking the body of Adam alayhi salam, and then what happened. We'll discuss that inshallah ta'ala. Adam alayhi salam, it's mentioned that he passed away Yawm al-Jumu'ah, and that Lady Hawa lived after him, radiyallahu anha, or alayhi salam, lived after him for 1 year, and then was buried with her husband next to her husband. The scholars mention that Lady Hawa, she would among the things they mentioned that she would do is that she would sew, she would embroider, she would knead dough, she would make bread, and she would do what people usually do. Sheeth alayhi salam became a prophet of Allah. So you see, prophethood didn't go, as far as we know, to the other children of Adam. It went to Sheeth alayhi salam. He was the chosen one by the eternal will of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So he was, of course, an upright, pious, God-fearing person. He was a messenger of Allah. So he wasn't just a prophet, he was a messenger. We know that there were 313 messengers. Rasul. Every one of them a Rasul. One of them was Adam alayhi salam, and another one of them was Sheeth. Then we have Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, Ibrahim, Musa, Isa, Nuh, Yaqub, and others. They were messengers of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. But he was grand, and the status of a messenger is higher than the status of a prophet. So remember, all of them are Anbiya. Every one of the approximate 124,000 is a Nabi. Every one of them is a Nabi. One of them, so then 313 of them have another attribute on top of that, is that they are messengers. Okay? So every Rasul is or rather every prophet is a Nabi, if you will, but not every one of them is a messenger. So he was a messenger of Allah, someone whose body was blessed, who deserves for his hand to be kissed, who deserves for his forehead to be kissed, who, if he wore a piece of clothing, it would become blessed, the blessing would remain in it. This is Sheeth alayhi salam, like all of the prophets of Allah. There was revelation that came to him. Revelation in the form of 50 booklets, they mention. Among the 104 books that were revealed, 50 of them went to Sheeth alayhi salam. One of them is the Quran, or one of the 104, I mean. One of them is the Quran, one of them is Al-Injil, one of them is At-Tawrah, okay, one of them is Az-Zabur. 50 of them were given to Sheeth alayhi salam. And he lived in Mecca. The scholars said he lived in Mecca and he performed Al-Hajj and Umrah continuously until he passed away. And that he had with him what Adam alayhi salam received of revelation. He had it all together, and he would teach people from that. If you recall, it was in the time of Sheeth alayhi salam that revelation came to him, and this is what makes Sheeth a messenger. Otherwise, for a person to be told, you are a prophet of Allah, and revelation comes to them, that makes them a prophet. What makes one of these prophets a messenger? What makes them a messenger is if they receive even one new law, one new rule that is different to what the previous messenger had. Adam alayhi salam was the first prophet and messenger. He was the previous messenger. Had Sheeth alayhi salam not received any new laws, but just he received the order to teach what Adam alayhi salam taught, then he wouldn't have been a messenger. But because he received even one new law which he did, he received a new law, at least one, he became a messenger too. He became a Rasul. So he had a different Sharia. He had a different law. Okay? The rules, or at least one rule was different, which was what? That now a brother could not marry a sister. In the time of Adam alayhi salam, it was permissible for a brother to marry his sister who's not his twin. But in the time of Sheeth alayhi salam, this rule changed. That became haram until the Day of Judgment. So that's it now. The door was closed. So he was a messenger too. He passed on his knowledge to his son. And he was buried, it is mentioned, with his parents. بِغَارِ أَبِي قُبَيْسٍ, in that same place. And it's mentioned that he died at an age of 912. 912. And like this, you see, the prophets in the beginning, they had very, very long lifespans. Then they started to get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, such that Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said, أَعْمَارُ أُمَّتِي مَا بَيْنَ سِتِّينَ وَسَبْعِينَ. The lifespan, the average lifespan, if you will, or mostly, the lifespan of the people in my nation, he said, from his time until the Day of Judgment, will be between 60 years of age and 70. Yes, do you get people who don't live up to 60 or 70? Yes, you do. People die young. Do you get people who live to 130? Yes, in this nation it's been recorded. Yes, but the majority between 60 and 70. So, after Adam alayhi salam, prophethood was passed on to his son Sheeth. Then after that, he had a son called Anush. This is how we say it in Arabic. Allah knows best how it was said in that language and what language they spoke. The scholars, they mention perhaps it was Syriac, Proto-Syriac, meaning Syriac that doesn't exist today. Likewise, some of these nations, they, as we're going to go on to see, like Aad and Thamud, the people of Salih and the people of Hud, alayhim as-salam, these are prophets, they were Arabs, but their Arabic was very different to the Arabic that we know today in the Quran. They spoke a Proto-Arabic, which means an Arabic that is no longer with us. No one speaks it at all. Okay. So Allah knows best how some of these names are pronounced in their original form, but in Arabic, the scholars, they said Anush had a son called Qaynan. Then he had a son called Mahla'il, who had a son called Idris. And Idris alayhi salam, some said this is a title, and that his name was actually Akhanuch, who in the anglicized form they call that, they say Enoch. Enoch. E-N-O-C-H. Have you ever seen that name? Enoch? No? No. There's actually a road. I think it's on the way to... I've seen the Enoch Road. No one's ever seen that? No, just me. So, next time, inshallah, we'll talk about Prophet Idris alayhi salam. Okay. As we used to do and will continue doing this now, let's speak a little bit about a different topic. Okay? So we're pausing the stories of the prophets there, and we're continuing with what we had started with, which was mentioning the rules in the Hanafi school of thought. Today we're going to speak about at-tayammum. Okay, so I'll give you a moment. Can you see it? Is it big? Great. I'll give you a few moments. So, we're going to speak about at-tayammum today. We're going to speak about when one can perform at-tayammum, and if there's time, what can be used to perform at-tayammum. Okay? The how to do tayammum is later, okay? Not today, inshallah. Let's see if we get through this. So, what do we have here? At-tayammum, it is sometimes translated as dry purification, without water. Okay? What do you have here? It says, one can perform at-tayammum if one doesn't have enough for a complete wudu. The water is more than 1 Islamic mile away. One is afraid of an enemy. One fears while traveling that he may not find water later and hence might die. One needs the water with him for dough. For dough to make bread. And lastly, if someone was ill. So let's talk about the first scenario. One can perform at-tayammum. Now, in all these scenarios, the way the scholars word it is that if a person was in any of these 6 scenarios, they would say, such a person, lam yajid al-ma. Such a person is not considered to have found water. Because usually you purify with water, don't you? You make wudu with water, or you perform al-ghusl, depending on what state you're in, with water. So if a person was in one of these 6 states, the scholars would say, lam yajid al-ma, meaning this person didn't find water, even if they had water. Okay, they'd say, it's as though he didn't find water. Because the judgment is that if you don't find any water anywhere, right, you can perform at-tayammum. But there are other situations that are like this one, where yes, you might have water, but for some reason you can't use it. Okay? So you're in a desperate situation, therefore it's as though you can't find water. You might need this water for something else. And that's what we're going to discuss today. So, a person performs at-tayammum if he does not have water, or he has water but he needs it for something else. So if a person does not find water that is enough for purification that he needs to perform, he would perform at-tayammum. Meaning what? A person needs water for wudu, right? And they have water with them. They might be traveling or not, okay? And they have water with them. Let's say they're traveling here. And this water, they could make wudu with it, okay? But they need it to drink, okay? Or for example, this water, they have it, but they have no other water. And this water is needed to make wudu, or they might be in a state where they need to perform al-ghusl. That the male may be in a state where he's junub, the female, her menses might have terminated. So she is in a situation where she has water, but she needs it for that purification. In this situation, what does she do? He or she saves the water, and they would use it for example, drinking and so on and so forth, they don't have enough to perform wudu, or they don't have enough to perform al-ghusl, and then after that they would perform at-tayammum. So, to read that to you, the person who does not find water that is enough for purification that he needs to perform. So, a person doesn't have enough water to perform al-ghusl or perform al-wudu. This person, they would then perform at-tayammum. So that's the first scenario. The second scenario, it says the water is more than 1 Islamic mile away. So if the water that a person knows that there is water somewhere at a distance, and it is more than, the scholars say, 4,000 steps away, that's 1 Islamic mile. 4,000 steps. Then even if a person is living in a town or a city, think about the people of Gaza. Okay? Now this is a reality that could befall not just the people of Gaza. It could befall different people at different times. Look how their water was cut off, electricity was cut off, essentials were cut off, right? But what do you do? If a person doesn't learn the religious knowledge, what will they do about their prayers? It's not, you can't use guesswork then. Oh, we don't have any water, what do we do? I think we should do this. As though someone says, Allah will accept, because we're in a desperate situation. No, but Allah sent down rules. Allah sent down rules. Did you not learn those rules? The person would say, no, but we're in a desperate situation. Yeah, but Allah sent down rules for desperate situations. You didn't learn them? You know, Allah sent the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and he taught what to do in these desperate situations. You didn't put effort into learning that? Well, how are you going to be excused then from not learning? So, if the water, it is more than the distance of an Islamic mile away, even if a person was living in a city, but this person does not have the water where they are living in that area, but it's far away, a distance of at least 1 Islamic mile, about 4,000 steps, then this person is considered, even though they know there is water, okay, 1.5 Islamic mile away, but it's far, of course. So this person, even though they know that there is water there, right now they are considered as though lam yajid ma, as though this person is not, does not have water. So for this reason, this person can perform at-tayammum. Likewise, if one is afraid of an enemy, so the third scenario there from the left. So if a person has water close to him, like you might be in a place, okay, and there is water outside, just outside. You know that if you go downstairs, you go down those stairs over there and out, you'll find water and you need to pray. But you fear, you know that there is an enemy outside. There is somebody outside who is going to kill you, for example, who's going to harm you in this way. Or you know that there are people who are known to be thieves, and you feel that you're afraid that they will rob you. So even though you don't have water here and there's water close by, you might even be able to see the water, let's say. Let's say you're in a building and you can see, I don't know, a river, okay, that passes by a certain area. And there are people standing in front of the river, people known to be people who are involved in burglary and so on, or they might kill you, they're dangerous people. So you can even see the water, but you can't use it because you fear for your life. Here, even though you can see the water, you are considered to, this person is considered to be someone who lam yajid al-ma, did not find water. So this person would also perform at-tayammum. Next. A person, maybe they have water, yes. But since they're traveling in the land, they're traveling in a place that they do not know. So a person might find water and they might not find water. And this water that they have with them, they need it for drinking, for example. For them, for their family. And so, in case, just in case, they, for example, cannot find water during the travel, okay? Even if a person right now, at this very moment in time, is not in a dire need, but a person fears that if they continue this journey, they will not find water and they might die then without water. In this case, a person can save this water that they have for drinking and so on, surviving, and they can perform at-tayammum, dry purification, while they have water. Next, a person may have water with them. Again, a person has water. Also, that person is considered as though lam yajid al-ma, as though he doesn't have water. When he does, but as though he doesn't. So that makes tayammum permissible. Likewise, a person may have water with them, but they need it to make bread. They have flour, but they need the water to make the flour into dough and so on, to make bread, so that they can eat it on their journey while they're traveling. They need the water to mix it in with the flour. So here in this case, what can a person do? This person can keep this water and they can perform at-tayammum. Okay? This person is considered as though lam yajid al-ma, it's as though he didn't find water, because he needs it for something. And lastly, if a person was ill. So imagine that there's a person who is ill and they have been told by someone trustworthy and Islamically reliable that if you use water on the body, it will kill you or it will harm you severely. If a person fears that if they use water, then the severity for wudu or ghusl, then the severity of their illness would increase. Or they fear that they will not be cured as quickly as they would have had they not used water. So if they fear that if I use water, the severity of my illness will increase. Or they fear that if I use the water, then I won't get better as fast as I would have had I not used the water. Or, for example, the one who is junub, the man who needs to take an obligatory bath, he fears that if he uses cold water to perform ghusl, he might die, for example. Sometimes it might be the case that he has cold water and he uses it, and he doesn't have, or he's in a very cold area, in a cottage somewhere, it's very, very cold. So if he performs al-ghusl with cold water, and it's really cold already and there's no fire, he might die. Then in this situation, all of these people, they perform at-tayammum. They perform at-tayammum. So those are 6 scenarios that are mentioned, or more, I'll mention a few more, in which a person can perform at-tayammum. Next, what can be used to perform at-tayammum? So you're not using water, so what exactly are you allowed to use? The scholar said, كل ما كان من جنس الأرض. كل ما كان من جنس الأرض. Anything that is considered to be anything pure, right? That is considered to be from the ground. Everything that is considered to be from the ground in general, from the al-jins, the kind of the ground, then it can be used. Anything from the earth, such as soil, can be used. Sand can be used. Stones, rock, marble, all of this can be used. Even what is known as al-ithmid. Al-ithmid, which is used for al-kuhul. Originally, this is a stone from the ground. This can be used. And they specified this though. They said, okay, Al-Imam Abu Hanifa said, right, so the nature of the ground, okay, it is such that there are many things. There are stones, there are rocks, there are, okay. So anything that is from the kind of the earth, it can be used, like the examples given. But there's an exception. The exception is that anything that, if it was to be burned, it would turn to ashes, such as trees and grass. This cannot be used for tayammum. Anything that might be considered from the ground, right? It might come up from the ground like a tree, or it might grow on the ground like grass. They said anything that can be burned and hence would result in ashes, you can't use that for a tayammum. You cannot use that for a tayammum, because it's not considered to be from jinsil ard, from the kind of the earth, from the ground. So that means, and a tayammum is very beneficial. It's very, very beneficial for this nation. The Prophet ﷺ said, جُعِلَتْ لِيَ الْأَرْضُ مَسْجِدًا وَتُرْبَتُهَا طَهُورًا. That the earth, the land, anywhere that is pure, it has been made permissible for us to pray on it. In the past, now we can pray the obligatory prayer where we like, at the service station, in the car park, on wherever we want, on the train, on a plane, over here, you'll see people putting a prayer mat out, and they'll pray wherever they want. In previous nations, we were speaking about prophets when we had different rules, there were previous nations in which the obligatory prayer was only valid in a specific place, like in a masjid. It was only valid in a specific place. Look how easy it is for us. Like really, look how easy it is. You can pray the 5 prayers anywhere. Yes, they should be in congregation. Yes, for the men, they should be in congregation in a masjid, for example. But if we're traveling, okay, we can pray wherever we want. If we go to a wedding, right, we can pray at the hall there. If you go, and so on. If you go to a family member's house to visit, you can ask them which way is the Qibla. They tell you it's that way. It is actually that way, isn't it, for us here? Yeah? So you can start praying. Okay? So the Prophet ﷺ said, جُعِلَتْ لِيَ الْأَرْضُ مَسْجِدًا. The whole earth, in one sense. I mean, you can pray on Everest. I mean, if you get to the top. Okay, you can pray on a mountain. You can pray in a valley. You can pray wherever you want. He said, وَتُرْبَتُهَا طَهُورًا. And its soil, the soil of the earth, meaning, as these scholars said, مَا كَانَ مِنْ جِنْسِ الْأَرْضِ, what is from the kind of the ground, okay, the ground in general, this is pure for us to perform tayammum with. Okay, so if someone, for example, is in the hospital and they can't use water, they might be bandaged up, okay, and so on and so forth. What can a person do? A person can bring even let's say, a larger stone from the outside, that's actually from the ground. An actual stone that's from the ground. And one can perform at-tayammum on that while they sit in the hospital bed. This is permissible. Okay, so as we had gotten used to in the past, we'll go through some fiqh issues towards the end of these sessions, inshallah. Perhaps we'll do it 30 minutes, or something like that, 35 or 25, or, you know. But we'll see. So today we discussed, very, very briefly, we discussed when one can perform at-tayammum, i.e. what are the scenarios in which a person can perform at-tayammum. And also we looked at what can be used for at-tayammum. Okay? What can be used for at-tayammum. Next week, we'll continue with Prophet Idris alayhi salam, and perhaps if we get to Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, we'll speak about him as well. We're going to hear about the first kufr that occurred amongst human beings from Bani Adam and how that happened. Insha'Allah, we'll speak about that, and we'll speak about how one performs at-tayammum and the matters that follow that in purification, inshallah. Today though, we'll stop here. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakumullahu khairan. Our beloved brother Nasir, his mother-in-law has passed away. So if we can recite Al-Fatiha, as is the case, as the Muslims should do whenever someone passes away. Let us recite Al-Fatiha. I've just been informed. So let's recite Al-Fatiha for the sake of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And when you recited Al-Fatiha, you say with the tongue, even in a whisper, you say, Ya Allah, grant a reward similar to what I received for Al-Fatiha to this person. Okay, so this is the mother-in-law of our brother Nasir. Let us recite Al-Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Let's say La ilaha illallah and as-salam ala nabi. La